Welcome to These Are the Blades of Our Lives, the figure skating show where I talk to you about figure skating like it is drama for our mama. As you guys know, Worlds is over. I finally had enough time to watch every competition. And so now it's time to give you my opinion on what I thought happened. This was a very, very important world because this was also qualification for the Olympic in Milan in 2026. And like every other thing having to do with the ISU, there were, of course, some shady dealings. There was some underhandedness. There was some greasing of the wheel. There was a little bit of everything, and I will go into everything in this episode. As far as getting Olympic spots, that the way that played out is that starting with the pairs, Japan now has 2 spots. Germany maintained their 2 spots. Italy, unfortunately, could not manage to get that 3rd spot, so they only have 2 spots. Georgia now has 2 spots. Does Georgia even have a second senior pair? Well, whether they have it or not, they got 2 spots. Unfortunately, Canada also could not retain its 3rd spot, so they now have 2 spots. Surprising! So very surprising! The US has 3 spots. Yes, this is part of the greasing of the wheel. This is like the home bonus is a real thing. Home ground competition bonus is a real thing. So the US managed to they got an extra spot. So now they have 3 spots for the Olympic. Amazing. Hungary has 2 spots. The Australians also got 2 spots, and Uzbekistan also has 2 spots. This was amazing. So starting the competition right off with pairs, some of the things that happened with pairs was pretty expected, and some of it was really quite mind-blowing to see what happened. The most mind-blowing for me was Annika Hockey and Robert Canal finishing in 18th place. I felt like the judges were not very kind to them. As a matter of fact, I felt like the judges were quite brutal to them, to be quite honest. I've always felt like they're a top 6 pair in the world. And yes, this wasn't their best outing, but I do feel like the judges did not give them the grace that normally a top skating pair would be given. So seeing them in 18th place was like, ooh, that's rough. That's rough. I was also really impressed with Ulia Chechatina and Michael Wozniak. Their twist is so amazing. Yes, they're still a young team. They're pretty rough around the edges, but I just think, oh my goodness, there's so much potential for all of their elements. I'm really looking forward to see if this pair could grow. Rebecca Gilardi and Filippo Ambrosini in 13th place. That's pretty good for them. Again, this is a pair that I really love. They have beautiful lifts. They have beautiful connection. Unfortunately, the side by side, it has always plagued them, and the throws are not consistent. And I am wondering, we know who the top Canadian pair is right now, without a doubt. With only 2 spots at a World Olympic, the pressure must be so intense. I cannot imagine what this upcoming Olympic season is going to be like for Italy in terms of their pair, their women, and their men. It's just gonna be like extraordinary. So unfortunately they didn't get that 3rd spot, so Rebecca and Filippo are gonna have a fight on their hand. Great Britain's Anastasia Vempen-Law and Luke Digby, great job all season. Great job all season. They don't have the highest technical starting base, but oh goodness, do they have incredible connection with each other. I feel like they're one of the most well-connected pairs completely skating. They seem to have a genuine like for each other that you can feel on the ice. Again, this could just be me projecting, but I like their packaging. I like their program. I feel give them 4 more years to really get the technical elements under them, and I feel like we could have something. Leah Pereira and Trent Machard in 11th place. I think, they did what they could for Canada. I think this was not a horrible outing. It would have been great if they could have been in the top 10, but this was not at all a bad outing for them. So Ekaterina, Ganesh, and Demi, because I think if Leah and Trent had been in the top 10, would that have been enough to get Canada? I think that might have been enough to, maybe not. I would have to look at the rules. But I'm wondering if Leah and Trent had been in the top 10, would that have been enough to get them 2 spots? We would have to, I would have to look at to get them 3 spots. I would have to look at the rules and regulations. I'm not too sure. But Ekaterina, Ganesh, and Dmitry Shigirov, really great outing for them in World. A top 10 finish means 2 spots because they were the only pair there competing for their country. Again, another pair. I don't really like their programs, but I do think they have beautiful lines. I do think they have decent elements. There's not a single element that you could pick from this pair and be like, they're struggling on it. They're not. They're really good across the board. The only thing I don't really like is their packaging. And then we get to Australia's Anastasia Gubalova and Hector Giotopoulos Moore. That twist! I'm like, why can't we get a specialist to fix this pair's twist? Every time he flings her up in the air, she comes down and hit his shoulder, and it drives me crazy because their side-by-side jumps are probably the most beautiful in the competition. Their throws, so much ice coverage. Their lifts are not bad either. Their packaging, not great, but not bad. Like, I just want them to fix that twist because that twist is costing them so much points. It just, it's frustrating. Maria Pavola and Alexei Shrenkenkov, the Hungarians, I think a top 8 finish is really, really good for them. Their sex bomb. Oh, I'm so glad that short program is going to be retired because it's so cringeworthy. And then their Pirates of the Caribbean, which I felt suits them better. I love their consistency all season. They haven't made any major problems. There was some issues here, steps out and whatnot, but I do feel like if we could get them better program and they can continue with their consistency, that would be amazing. And then we get to Ellie Khan and Danny O'Shea. With a 7th place finish, they managed to get that 3rd spot, which I feel like is going to alleviate a lot of stress on the U.S. pairs because that's 2 additional spots, that Ellie and Danny don't have to worry about. And we found out after the competition that Danny was injured throughout this whole competition. Again, we still saw the same issues that we have been seeing with them, which is the side-by-side is 50-50. The throws are 50-50, but the rest of the skating, the lifts are amazing. The twist is good. Their in-between skating is amazing, but they're really gonna, they got the home court advantage here. The judges were very, very generous to them at this competition, but I don't know if they're gonna get that same generosity next season. I know the US is really pushing for this team, but I feel like they're probably gonna have to get those side by side in the throws together. If not, it might not work. And then in 6th place, a top 6 finish, Alyssa Efrenova and Misha Metronova. I felt like the judges were not generous for them. I do understand that the U.S. Federation is not pushing this team because Alyssa doesn't have U.S. citizenship, so they can't really compete at the Olympics. But they were a major factor in getting the U.S. that third spot, and they have solidified themselves as now being the number one U.S. pair. So I really hope, they can get Alyssa's citizenship situated so that for the next 4 years we could see how they grow. Their main issue is the side-by-side jump, which for the majority of the time Alyssa would either double 2 foot or go down on. But I feel like if they could take the next year knowing they're not competing at the Olympic and really just work on strengthening that could be amazing. Um, in fifth place, and you guys know how much I wanted them on the podium, was Diana Stellato-Dudek and Maxime Deschamps. Oh, it broke my heart. This has been such a difficult season for them with injuries and sickness just up and down. But they fought, and I really feel like they're gonna come guns blazing for the Olympic season. I cannot wait to see what kind of program they come. I personally really want them, Donnez-moi des Oxygènes, to bring back that short program because it is so fabulous. That fast-paced Donnez-moi les Oxygènes is just so pumping, and it feels like, given the type of skater Diana is, that kind of music is a driving force for her. So I hope they bring back, that short program and create a new, long program. I cannot wait to see what they have for next season, and I pray that they're in health and they could give their best performance. Unfortunately, here it wasn't like the throws. Diana was stepping out of them. They just didn't seem like themselves. They didn't seem 100%. In fourth place was Anastasia Meltonkina and Luka Barilova. You guys know how I feel about this pair. This is not a pair that I'm ever going to personally root for, but they did a really, really good short job in the short program. They have like really just world-class element. Their twists, their throws, their side-by-side. All of their elements are world-class. I didn't love the 80s theme short program on them. I felt it was a little cringy. I didn't really like the passage of time long program where they were old and they were young, and then they had the little hoodie. I felt like it was too much Danny G inspiration in these programs. So I do hope they get new choreographers and try out new styles. And now we get to the podium. Starting off with Sarah Conti and Nicolo Massi. Wow. They performed so much better than I thought they would. Starting with their twist. For the past 2 seasons, their twist was not great. She kept knocking into his shoulder. I don't know what they did. Maybe they hired a specialist, the Australians. That's what I'm saying. They hired a specialist, they worked on it, and now they have managed to get that triple twist to where it needs to be. Their throws usually have a lot of power, a lot of speed, a lot of height. So that's always my favorite elements from them. Their side-by-side, he really struggled at this competition on the side-by-side, which is not really, something that we see a lot for him. They were actually in second place after, the short program, which I thought was, this is that politicking. This is that behind the scene, politicking, building up this team for, the Olympic on home ice. That's that politicking. But they were in second place after the short program, and overall they ended up in third place. Then we have Minerva Fabian Hayes and Nikita Volodin. This team is so frustrating sometimes. They were good in the short program. They got to the long program. They were having the long program of their career. They go into that last lift and they could not maintain the last lift, and Nikita safely brought Minerva down, which is the most important thing, is safety. He brought her down safely, but all I could think was they would have won this. It was the same thing last season. They were so strong. They won everything, and then it came to World and they just missed it. So here they were here now, but they are making progress because they had bronze last year, now they're silver. But yes, they had like that long program right until that last lift was just fabulous. Again, another team that I cannot wait to see what kind of program they have for next season because they match each other so well. They're so big, they take up so much ice space. Their wingspan is so enormous. So I'm very much invested in this pair and want to see what they have to do. And then our winners here was Rika Mura and Ryuichi Kihara. Amazing. They got back their world title, which they lost last year. Again, they were just on fire at the short program. They had the burning death glare in their eyes throughout every element in the short program. My problem with this team has always been packaging, has always been the music they picked for them. And I felt like this season they picked music that was more in line with Ryuku's personality than the soft blah 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 music, the emo music they had been picking the previous seasons. And you could see that. You could see the fight, the determination in her because the music were aligned. Like many other pairs, this team really struggles with the side by side, and sometimes the throws does get away from them. But Riku fought for those side by side here, and she fought for the throws. What puts this team apart, and I feel like just the Japanese teams period, is because they have such great skating skills. So they create so much speed and they cover so much ice. They are so much faster than their competitors. It is just amazing. Like especially the young Japanese pair, they didn't manage to make it to the free, but oh my goodness, like the ice coverage that they have in their lifts, and that's all due to how incredible, the basic training skating skills are for the Japanese. All in all, I don't know about everyone else, I was very satisfied with what I saw with the pairs. I love to see the continuous growth that is happening with the pairs. And now I'm even more invested and more excited to see what's going on with the pairs. But you guys let me know in the comment, what did you think about the 2025 World Olympic pairs competition? Leave me a comment.